on, let's see, connecting. Are we live? 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 Live on Periscope. Waiting for YouTube. I believe we're live on Facebook as well. Hold on. Are we live on Facebook? 3, 2. I believe we're live on Facebook as well. Ooh, this is exciting. It's almost like being in NASA waiting for all the channels to launch. All right. I don't know if we're live on YouTube. We'll have to see. Oh, we're live on YouTube. Wonderful. Hey, everybody. Jordan Sheridan here. It is about almost 3 o'clock Eastern on the East Coast. Obviously, a big election last night. A lot of things that went on that I'd love to address. It's not going to be the longest live stream because I have to go to the back doctor. If you don't know, I had surgery on my back a couple months ago, so got to go to a follow-up. But wanted to definitely give my take on the election results because, of course, the corporate media, their takeaway, and I'm already seeing it on CNN. Politico's already done 2 stories, and I'm sure the Washington Post will have 16 stories ready to go soon. On why Bernie Sanders and socialism are total failures, and Bernie and all the progressives should just take their ball and go home for the establishment, for the establishment to defeat Trump, right? And let me know on YouTube. Let me know everywhere if you're seeing me, if you're hearing me well. I was buffering last time, but I think it's working now. And on YouTube, this is a super chat. So if you want to feel super and make me feel super, feel free to leave some contributions live on the super chat, even $5, and all the people that have been leaving super chat is going to help Ty and I get back in the field where we need to be. So, unfortunately for Facebook folks, I don't know why, but on Facebook it doesn't show you the articles that I'm reading from. On YouTube it does. So if you want to watch on Facebook, you just won't see the articles. If you want to watch on YouTube, I could show you what I'm reading from. So obviously, there were got the notification. I'm here. Fantastic statutory grape. That's a interesting title. I don't know why it's buffering so much. Let me X some things out here. Hold on. I'm gonna X that one out. It might be too many tabs open, but we'll go forward anyway. Let me know if it's watchable. So obviously, progressives were up in some major races yesterday. You had Cori Bush in St. Louis. You had Abdul El-Syed in Michigan. You had Brent Welder in Kansas. All 3 of those, unfortunately, lost. Brent Welder only lost by a little bit. So it's very interesting. That race has already been called. I want to look into more of that to make sure there were no shenanigans because he didn't lose by a large margin. Abdul El-Syed lost to Gretchen Whitmer by a good amount. I can't sugarcoat it. Cori Bush in St. Louis running for Congress lost by a pretty significant amount. So, as I've always said on this channel and other channels, corruption was not built overnight. In Michigan, for example, Gretchen Whitmer, who is now the Democratic nominee, who defeated El-Syed, had a lot of money from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Hold on one second. I am live, telling my business partner I'm live. Had a lot of money from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Abdul El-Syed, his campaign really came on towards the end. For the most part, the majority of his campaign, there wasn't a lot of attention on it, but he got that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez push towards the end. Ocasio-Cortez came down. Bernie Sanders came down for him. I think if you would have gotten that kind of support a little earlier on, it could have made a difference. I don't know if he would have won because he did lose by, I believe, 20 points. And again, Gretchen Whitmer, she was a state leader in the Michigan Senate. And she is well known in the state of Michigan. And again, she had a lot of money. I think her father was the former CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield. She's had She got endorsed by Blue Cross Blue Shield. She has a ton of money from Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I think the bottom line is, in a lot of these races, especially statewide, in my live stream yesterday, which the majority of you probably didn't see because YouTube is suppressing the content, in the live stream yesterday, I said, it is different when you're in a district like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez versus running statewide. Because statewide, you're up against the entire state's political establishment. You're up against a lot of money. I guarantee you, money from Betsy DeVos, money from foundations, and money from Blue Cross Blue Shield was working against Abdul El-Syed. He also did not have the name recognition of a Gretchen Whitmer. So I don't think it's all bad as far as Abdul El-Syed's loss. I think we are going to have to understand, as a progressive movement, that the corruption in this country did not start overnight. It did not start overnight. You are going to have more losses at first than you're going to have victories, like Ocasio-Cortez, which was a stunner, but she just outworked Joe Crowley in New York. And Joe Crowley was an arrogant, elitist tool who, like always, took it for granted that he was just going to win. So we're going to have more Ocasio-Cortezes, but not in every contest. Same thing with Cori Bush in St. Louis. She was defeated. I think she ran a good campaign. I know Cori Bush. I interviewed her in St. Louis before and after I was arrested there last year. She is a great candidate. She's a nurse and just a great person. But it's difficult, particularly your first time running, to get that name recognition. Especially, reminder, all of these candidates are swearing off corporate money. It's not easy to defeat healthcare companies that are donating in the millions to your opposition. It's not easy to defeat real estate developers that are donating into the millions. It's not easy to defeat a lot of candidates. And Rosanita makes a great point. There was a third candidate, kind of spoiler, Shree. I forget his last name, in the Michigan governor's race on the Democratic side, that I believe spent at least $10 million on his own campaign. And Abdul El-Syed got more votes than him. So money is not automatically going to be the reason a candidate defeats a progressive. So the bottom line is this. I think someone like Abdul El-Syed, it's the same thing that I said when Tim Canova lost to Debbie Wasserman Schultz last year. Those candidates have to take their loss. Obviously, we're all human, so they're going to lick their chops for a little bit and get out there, stay in the public eye, speak out against corporate establishment candidates that beat them, protest and organize. Door knocking and getting your name out there if you want to be a candidate isn't only for when you're running. It's around the clock, always, to get your name out there. That includes visiting other parts of the state or the district that you might have not visited or focused on during your primary. It includes being an active progressive on national stories. If there is another Standing Rock, for example, if there is another protest like the Ferguson protest, candidates should do whatever they can to get there, because that's how you build national name recognition. That's how you show people you're progressive, whether you win or you lose. Bernie Sanders, for example, if you watch his biography, he lost several times before winning. So, it's not all bad, okay? And there were some lower level names that won progressives. So there was some victory. There was also historic victories in Missouri, which I want to get to. You had, this one really was of interest to me. Again, on Facebook, you might not see the article. For some reason, I'm not able to show articles on Facebook, but I am on YouTube and Periscope. An underdog and a real reformer won for prosecutor in Missouri, defeating a long time, in my view, corrupt prosecutor, Robert McCullough. I'll read you this. Nearly 4 years to the day after a white police officer in Ferguson, Missouri shot an unarmed black teenager named Michael Brown, voters in the state's primary election on Tuesday ousted the long-standing county prosecutor who faced fierce criticism for his handling of the case. Robert McCullough, who has been the St. Louis County prosecutor for almost 3 decades, failed to indict the officer who killed Brown in 2014, an incident that sparked widespread protests and galvanized a national conversation about police brutality. Oh, you want to call it a conversation, Mother Jones? His opponent in the primary, Wesley Bell, a 43-year-old Ferguson city councilman and former public defender, prosecutor, and judge, who helped push police accountability and court reforms in Ferguson after Brown's killings, and who campaigned on a progressive platform ending cash bail for nonviolent offenses. That guy won. With 89% of the ballots counted, Bell declared victory late Tuesday night with 55% of the vote over McCullough's 45%. Both are Democrats. No Republicans were on the ballot for the primary race. Now, let me tell you something. Not to keep saying it, but I was jailed with my cameraman in tie. I heard horror stories from African Americans in St. Louis. St. Louis, honestly, some of them told me it's like modern day Jim Crow in St. Louis. And by the way, this Democratic prosecutor, Robert McCullough, was part of the problem. They take a lot of money, the police union and other corporate entities in Missouri and St. Louis, to keep things as a status quo. And they have a major prison industrial complex in St. Louis that makes a lot of money by keeping black people jailed for really ridiculous things like a broken taillight or paying your parking ticket late. There are a lot of black people in the workhouse jail in St. Louis for broken taillights, not paying your parking ticket, and other reasons that white people don't go to jail and stay in jail for. So that's a big victory in Missouri. There was also a big victory as far as a right to work ballot amendment that was shot down. We've seen these right to work amendments going all over the country as the conservatives and frankly some corporate Democrats try to continue to break unions. Well, Missouri voters overturned a right to work measure. Let me read that to you about. Labor groups won a landmark and lopsided victory Tuesday as Missourians voted by referendum to overturn the state's new right-to-work law, an embarrassing rejection. For the state's Republican lawmakers, Proposition A asked voters whether or not they would like to enact the right-to-work statute that the state legislature passed and former Governor Eric Greitens signed early last year. The no votes defeated the yes by a 2-to-1 margin, with 937,241 for the proposition and 452,075 against. That's a big-ass margin. AFL-CIO Union Federation called the results historic. The defeat of this poisonous anti-work legislation is a victory for all workers across the country, Richard Trumka, the Federation's president, said in a statement. The ballot measure drew interest far beyond Missouri due to the rapid spread of right-to-work laws around the country. Such laws give workers who are covered by a union contract the option to not pay any union fees while still enjoying the contract's protections. Unions are likely to lose members and funding after a state becomes right to work. I mean, that's a very nice, delicate way of saying right-to-work laws are meant to destroy unions so that unions can't make money, they can't get membership dues, and they don't exist. That's why right-to-work laws are thriving in Republican states. And by the way, if you look at the history of this country, if you look at how things have gone downhill since the late 70s, early 80s, the connection is the destruction of unions. There's a reason in the 1950s and 60s we had some of the best economic growth and economic equality in United States history. It was not just the World War II, the post-war boom. It was strong labor unions, because labor unions not only gave their members a livable wage, good benefits, vacation time, and work and protections. You also had private corporations that were not giving union membership or unions. They were also giving and providing decent wages because they didn't want their workers to sign up for a union. So they had to stay competitive because they didn't want their workers to sign up for a union. And yes, definitely. Jen is in the live chat here. Definitely do as she says. That includes sharing the video if you'd like. This, again, is a super chat, so feel free to leave a couple bucks if you want. We need your help to get out on the road. If you don't know, you probably don't, because YouTube has been suppressing the hell out of this channel. Like, to the point where I don't even think people know I'm doing videos every day. It's insane. Definitely check out our reporting from Flint. We were just there again. Definitely check out our reporting from Chicago. We were just there covering protests and the ongoing police violence, which in my view is an emergency in Chicago. Chicago is a war zone. So definitely check out those videos, share those videos. So there were victories. Of course, the main headliners, Syed, Cori Bush, lost. That's going to happen. Like, I think it frustrates people, but it does not mean anything overarching as far as progressives not having a chance in 2018's midterms, or if Bernie runs or another actual progressive of winning. The momentum is with the progressive movement. Sometimes it does not automatically equal victories because every race has different dynamics and context. For example, El-Syed, his campaign and his candidacy and his name only really got off the ground and got some momentum probably in the last 2 to 3 weeks of the campaign, when in reality you need more name recognition probably 3 to 4 months before primary day, if that. Bernie Sanders for a long time didn't have the name recognition. He got it by the time the primary was over. He was also up, like I said, against major money from the Democratic side. We should also say Cori Bush, for example. She was one of the leaders for Black Lives Matter in St. Louis. She has been a thorn in the police's side. She has been a thorn in political leaders in St. Louis that want the status quo to continue. They want the status quo to continue. So Cori Bush, for example, of course, she had money working against her. Of course, she had the media not giving her any attention because the powerful, from the donors to the media to the journalists in St. Louis, were going to do everything to either paint her as an extremist or to paint her in no way and not cover her. Same thing happened with El-Syed. The media largely ignored him in Michigan, because they don't want progressive change. So don't be discouraged. But interestingly enough, because Politico, the Washington Post, all of these outlets, they live. Literally the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning, other than turning on Morning Joe, which they also love, is finding negative news on Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Frank Flamingo. $20 in the super chat. Hey, Jordan, thought Brent was in lead before voting machine went down. Imagine if that happened to Trump in 2016. He'd be raging. Thank you, Frank. And yes, I said at the top of this live stream, I actually want to look in closer to what happened. I didn't have time. But I know that it was very close, or he was in the lead before voting machines went down. So I do want to see if there was any shenanigans there, because election fraud and voter shenanigans will not go uncovered by me. So I'll look into that for sure. We should say, even though I don't think she was the most progressive, a Native American candidate, as of now, won over Brent Welder. So she would be the first Native American elected to Congress. A Muslim candidate won in Michigan, so that's a positive step. But I will make sure to look into whether there was shenanigans there. And we're getting hashtag Bernie really won, Brent really won from Jewelry Nala. So what I was saying, these people live to crush Bernie Sanders. So the fact that MacArthur says, hey, Jordan, I thought you were going to do a show on universal basic income. Hey, there's a lot on my list to go cover in the field, but I need the funds to do it. So that's where you guys come in. Whether it's leaving funds in the super chat, whether it's becoming monthly Patreons at Patreon subscribers at patreon.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports. That's my nice handmade arts and crafts sign. Or you could leave a one-time contribution if you don't want to leave a monthly. If you don't want to become a monthly member, you could go to paypal.me/statuscoup. We're trying to get the funds to go out and cover a lot of things. Thank you, Brandy, who left $5. Hell yeah, Status Coup. We're mad as hell. We're not going to take it anymore. We are going to be launching the website for Status Coup soon, and I'm also going to get back to doing podcasts, the Status Coup podcast, which I recorded today. So, as I said, the media lives to take out Bernie Sanders. So, take a look. Take a look here. First article I found. Down goes socialism. Down goes socialism. Politico. The Ocasio-Cortez wing of the Democratic Party thinks its policies are the path to victory in red states. Last night's results suggest otherwise. And this guy, Bill Scher, I've fought with him on Twitter before. He loves writing for the establishment. He loves covering for the Democratic establishment. He loves criticizing Bernie Sanders. And he loves making hot takes that socialism can't win, Bernie Sanders is a nobody, and all of us progressives should take our ball and go home. I'll just read you a little bit. If you thought that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's upset victory in the primary over Joe Crowley meant the Democratic Party was poised to go socialist, think again. Last night's largely Midwest primaries produced a near shutout for the anti-establishment left. Ocasio-Cortez partnered with Bernie Sanders to make a series of splashy endorsements that, in the end, failed to clinch victories. And two leftist upstarts hoping to emulate Ocasio-Cortez and defeat the Democratic incumbents fell far short. The most glaring defeat came in Michigan's gubernatorial primary. This is the state where Sanders defied the polls and edged out Hillary Clinton, raising hopes that he had a magic touch in the Rust Belt. So I'm not even going to bother reading more. I just wanted to give you the headline because it's everything I thought it would be. They're making giant hot takes, linking the fact that, oh my Lord, Bernie Sanders went. Thank you, statutory, for $2. PR for the establishment. He left $2 and said PR for the establishment. Politico is PR not just for the establishment, but for the Democratic Party. That's what Politico is. So you literally have this guy for Politico declaring socialism's end when the Bernie Sanders candidate in Michigan, a first-time candidate who got very little media attention until the end, was up against a crap load of money from health insurance companies to real estate developers to you name it. That wasn't mentioned in his article, which I read the whole thing. Wasn't mentioned how much he was outspent. Wasn't mentioned that Bernie Sanders came down literally, I believe, 2 days before the primary. Wasn't mentioned that El-Syed was a victim of a lot of bigotry for being a Muslim. There were not so subtle ads against him, otherizing him. None of that stuff was mentioned. By the way, when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez won, I don't remember seeing a Politico article saying, down with the establishment. Do you remember that? I don't. But when a Bernie candidate loses, again, first-time candidate up against a hell of a lot of money, was a Muslim, which we know Michigan isn't like, Michigan does have a lot of racial sentiment from it. Had a lot of areas that were segregated even up until the 21st century. That's not mentioned in Politico. It's just down with socialism, down with socialism. Well, if you think that was the only Politico article, say basically declaring Bernie Sanders dead, because really what Politico wants is a good old race between establishment, corporate crony Joe Biden, who pretends to be for the middle class, up against Trump. So they could say, oh, the Obama coalition and the Obama administration is coming in on the white horse to take out Trump. But then Politico would know, all right, it's a win-win for us if we get Biden versus Trump. If Trump stays, because make no mistake, the media wants Trump to win re-election. That's their whole business model. Cable news was dying before Trump. They were hemorrhaging viewers. Same thing with print. They want Trump to win re-election. They'll never say that, but that's what they want. But, okay, if Trump loses and you get somebody like Joe Biden, that's okay too. That's okay too, because then, look at it. Then we're back to business. We got a Democratic president. They'll say nice things and be progressive, but we'll still make our money because it will still be the revolving door. We'll still make tons of money as a media. Our friends in D.C. and in corporate America will make tons of money, and nothing will ever change. So the media does not want Bernie Sanders. The parent companies of these media companies do not want Bernie Sanders. They're not looking to pay more taxes. They're not looking for more regulation. So the journalists do the bidding of the media, which is, by the way, the journalists do the bidding of their parent companies, which, by the way, if you don't know, still releasing chapter by chapter, The Corporate Con Job, my book. We're up to, I believe, we're going to be releasing chapter 12 now, which is all about explaining how the media is corrupt, how the media is soulless, and how the media is helping destroy the country. So you could become a Patreon there too if you want. Just saying. That's patreon.com/Jordan Chariton. The reporting channel is patreon.com/Jordan Chariton Reports. But one more Politico article. One more political article. Did that one not give you enough fury? You want one more? Okay. Here's another. And by the way, they didn't even wait 24 hours. They didn't wait 24 hours. This is like 12 hours after. Headline, Bernie and his army are losing 2018. Oh my God. Sanders missed the boat on Ocasio-Cortez, then watched his endorsed candidates fall on Tuesday. A sign that his sway is limited heading into 2020. Give me a break. 2 years, Bernie Sanders is sputtering. That's the first sentence in Politico. 2 years after his defeat, the 2016 presidential primary, the Vermont senator has amassed a growing string of losses in races in which he has intervened. Beginning last year, Sanders-backed candidates faltered in an Omaha mayoral race and a nationally watched House race in Montana. See, what this first paragraph left out, that House race in Montana, which was Rob Quist, Trump had won by 21 points in that district. Rob Quist lost by 6 points in a red district in a red state. But again, you never get this context. You never get any semblance of balance or truth. It's just like, oh, Bernie endorsed the candidate and he lost? Bernie Sanders and his army are losing. Bernie Sanders is sputtering. There's never, ever any context provided. Never. Thank you, Susie Potatoes. Still appreciate you reporting with a heart. Appreciate the $1.99, Susie. Thank you so much. So we have no context, none. And we have basically anything. If the progressive movement doesn't win every single time, Bernie is sputtering, socialism is burning to the ground, and please go and give money to Nancy Pelosi. That's essentially what these people are saying. Then came Representative Tom Perriello's loss in Virginia's gubernatorial primary in June. And then they're going down a list of campaigns where the Bernie Sanders endorsed candidate, in some cases where Bernie went down there and endorsed, lost. So that means if Bernie Sanders' candidate loses, that means socialism has no shot in hell of winning. That means we might as well all take our ball and go home. And that means you should just be against Trump and support the establishment. Right? That's basically what they're saying. Well, I don't agree with that. First of all, Bernie Sanders is a national leader of the progressive movement. But that doesn't mean Bernie Sanders is going to automatically lift somebody to victory in a certain district or a certain state. Look at Brent Welder, who, again, I am going to look into that race to make sure there were no shenanigans. Look at Brent Welder. Literally, he's in Kansas. Kansas is one of the most Republican states in the country, okay? So Brent Welder, to our knowledge, got 34% of the vote to the female candidate. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name. Could be the first Native American to be a congressperson, to 37%. So the Bernie Sanders supported candidate got 34% of the vote to the female candidate's 37%. That's not a blowout. Why is that not mentioned in these Politico pieces, by the way? And not only did Bernie go down for Brent Welder, so did Ocasio-Cortez. Couldn't it be said that Bernie's support and Ocasio-Cortez's support might have even helped Brent Welder to get to that narrow margin and only lose by 3 percentage points? Of course they're not going to say that because that doesn't fit the narrative. And it's all about narrative after all. It's all about narrative. So you have Bernie Sanders went down and helped out Brent Welder. Brent Welder only lost by 3 percentage points, which I'm going to look into. Bernie Sanders only went down for Abdul El-Syed 2 days before the primary. Again, Abdul El-Syed, literally, nobody knew who he was, I'd say a month before the primary. It wasn't until Ocasio-Cortez went down and he started getting more. Nina Turner, Bernie all went down that last weekend before the primary. It's a state. It's a state. It's not a country. It's a state. Michigan is not an automatically blue state. It's also not a heavily progressive state. You have a Republican governor. You have Betsy DeVos's money flooding the zone in Michigan. And again, El-Syed was up against Gretchen Whitmer, who had a whole lot of establishment money going her way. But none of this content, none of this context matters. It's not said in political articles. It's not said in the roundtable punditry on CNN, because that would defeat their narrative. And what they want to do is they want to make Bernie Sanders a dirty word. They want to make Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a dirty word. They want to make socialism, which frankly is just FDR. FDR was a socialist. That turned out pretty well, economically speaking. They want to make it a dirty word, so any people on the fence in 2018 between voting for a progressive or voting for an establishment Democrat, or in 2020 say, hey, look, I mean, Bernie keeps losing. We can't win. We can't win if we go with a progressive. That's what they're trying to do. Because if they were real journalists, Aman says, only just got the alert. Yes, that's another thing you guys should know. 140 watching. I'm not saying this to complain. I'm saying this so you know. Right now, there is a concerted effort. It ain't just Alex Jones, by the way. Right now, there is a concerted, heavy effort to suppress this channel's content. YouTube is not even delivering my videos to over 14,000 subscribers. Do you know how many people tell me I don't even see your videos in my feed and they subscribe? Same thing with Facebook. Same thing with Twitter. There is a major effort to make sure you don't hear me, you don't see our content, which includes on-the-ground reporting, which we just did in Flint and Chicago, because they don't want progressive journalism to, just like they don't want the progressive movement to get any traction, they don't want progressive journalism to be seen and supported. And I ain't gonna lie to you, Jen could tell you, she's in the live chat right now. It is frustrating. It is frustrating because I know there is a massive audience out there. I was fortunate at the Young Turks to build a large audience based on the ground reporting of issues the corporate media ignores. They are suppressing this content. They are not even notifying you when I'm live, even though you click the bell, click all notifications. I get so many people in this live chat telling me they just notified me like a half hour into the live stream. Ty, our photojournalist, cameraman, editor, all that, literally is live with me in Chicago. He doesn't get a notification. I don't even get notifications when I'm live. So I need you guys more than ever. We need to work around this suppression. So even if it's $1 a month, even if it's $2 a month, even if it's $5 per month, that is going to help us build Status Quo. Status Quo is the media company we are trying to launch. We are going to be going live on the Status Quo website. That's statusquo.com. That's being built out as we speak. We are going to be sending you notifications from Status Quo when we start going live on there, so we don't have to rely on YouTube, so we don't have to rely on Facebook, so we don't have to rely on these social media, if you want to call them social. Because what YouTube really is now, what YouTube really is, you ready for this? It's not YouTube. It's FewTube. YouTube is not YouTube anymore. It's FewTube. And when I say few, they want to elevate CNN. They want to elevate all the corporate outlets like the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC. For God's sakes, Jimmy Dore said in one of his videos, when you finish a video for CNN, it's literally referring you to, when you finish a video for Jimmy Dore, it refers you to MSNBC. Now, does that seem like a similar channel to Jimmy Dore? We are going to go for a paying app. But right now, we got to start in steps. We're working on building our site. Dora, thank you. $9.99. Keep fighting. Ooh, Dora, thank you so much. So, and by the way, if you become a Patreon, we're going to do, right now it's monthly. We might knock it down to weekly. We're going to do weekly video calls with you. I also do behind-the-scenes video content. With Ty on board now, we're also going to be doing content from Ty that's exclusive to Patreon. So you're not getting nothing. But YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, the silent suppression that's going on, the silent censorship that is going on, is coming from these networks so that Jimmy Dore doesn't get any more popular, so that Secular Talk's Kyle Kalinske doesn't get seen as wide, so that the Humanist Report's Mike Figueredo doesn't get seen, so that Jamarl Thomas from the Progressive Soapbox doesn't get seen, so that Lee Camp doesn't get seen. So all of these channels are being suppressed. Mine in particular, I don't want to say it's worse than them. The only difference is I just started this channel in March. So we don't have the subscriber base yet to withstand such suppression. So that's why we really, really need your help. Because the thing that's really frustrating to me, it's not just that people aren't getting the content, it's that these communities aren't getting their stories out. We are literally in Chicago as one of the only national outlets talking to black Chicagoans about the literal war zone. They are in a war zone. They have targets on their back. No coverage. A mayor said, Kansas was BS. I need you to vent for me, Jordan. I said, I'm going to look into Kansas, 100%. I was running errands today, but I'm not so sure that election had no shenanigans, so I'm going to look into it. You're also like Flint. I was just in there. There are 3 to 5 hour lines over 4 years later. There are lines wrapped around for blocks in Flint for water, for clean water. I doubt you even saw that video because you probably didn't get an alert when I posted it. So we need you more than ever. We need you to share these videos. We need you to not just share them, but create a separate post. This is a fight against corporate digital censors. We are not in an age anymore where all content is given the same opportunity to get seen. It would be one thing if I put out content and people just didn't like it. That would be fine. As humbly as I could say it, I don't think that's what it is. I've been able, fortunately, because there's such a hunger for real news, to be able to build an audience in the past. Unfortunately, YouTube, I'm going to release the email. I'm going to release the email chain with YouTube. What YouTube is really saying to me and doing to me, and again, this is not a pity party for me. This is happening to Jimmy, Mike, Kyle. I'm just giving you my own personal story that's going on with YouTube. You know how if you have a kid that's just asking you question after question after question after question, and you love your kid, but like you're trying to do things and you're trying to focus. So you just tell your kid, you just answer your kid whatever. You'll just answer him or her nonsense. You'll just, if you have to, you'll say something that's not true, just so your kid stops asking you why. That's what YouTube is doing right now. YouTube is literally giving me nonsensical, intellectually dishonest, intellectually offensive answers for why a channel over 14,000 subscribers in 5 months. We started this, I think, the last week of February. We've risen to over 14,000 subscribers. Why it is that I'm only getting 100 to 200 views on videos, which isn't even mathematically possible. Why it is that on live streams, this audience right now, thank you to all 133 watching, is literally the largest audience I've had in 2 months. I'm covering the same stuff I always cover. I'm out in the field covering stories that no one else sees, yet no one is getting it. No one is seeing it. So, I said to my parents who own a jewelry store, this would be the equivalent of you having items that no one else has, yet then putting blockades all around the block so no one can get to you. That's what's going on here. So we need your support. Even if you support at $1 to $2 a month on Patreon, it might not sound like anything. It's a big deal. We've been hovering around 400 Patreon subscribers for a while. We need to get to 450. We need to get to 500. We need to get to 600. The more subscribers and paid subscribers we have, the more case I have to go to try and get grants, to try and get other funding from progressives, to get out in the field and cover the things you want. I have people telling me on Twitter, they follow me on Twitter, they don't even see my tweets. So thank you to those contributing to the Super Chat. Thank you to those contributing on Patreon. Thank you. Even if you can't financially contribute, I know some people don't even have $1 a month, so I get it. Share these videos. Make sure you press the bell on YouTube next to subscriber and click on all notifications. Even when people do that, it's not working, but you at the least do that. Jordan was the best from TYT. Of course, they got rid of him. Oh, no comment. Not getting into that. So as I end today, because I have to go, I'm actually really late now. I have to go for a post-op for my back surgery. I want to make something very clear, okay? El-Syed losing is not the end of socialism or the progressive movement. We are just getting started, folks. We are just getting started. Cori Bush in St. Louis losing is not the end. It's not the end, it's the beginning. There are victories. Right to work being overturned in Missouri, major victory, because Missouri is one of the most Republican, racist states in our country. Okay? A progressive reformer beating a longtime corrupt prosecutor in St. Louis County is a major deal. Go ask the people in St. Louis. I could tell you because I sat with them in a jail cell for 16 hours. That prosecutor was there to keep black people oppressed and keep law and order just for white people. So white people thrive, wealthy white people thrive, and black people continue to be segregated and oppressed. There are progressive victories happening. So don't listen to Politico. Don't listen to CNN. Look at the victories. Jeez. I'm not going to say your name because I don't want to be demonetized, but somebody with a very interesting username said, I have 7 herniated discs, so I feel your pain, Jordan. Jesus, I just did physical therapy yesterday. I can't even walk. My calves hurt so bad. I stretched my calves too much, and now they're strained. But the point is, don't pay attention to corporate media. Only progressive media will tell you the truth. The Jimmys of the world. Me. Ty is going live on this channel too. I'm going to convince Jen to go live soon. And we're trying to expand, but we need the funding. We're just getting started. So please, please, please keep the support going. I'm going to try to go live probably now in the afternoons, a little earlier. I've been going live around 5 o'clock Eastern time. For whatever reason, it seems like that's not the best time to go live. So I'm going to try to go live, I guess, in this vicinity. And hopefully, just keep in your mind that Jordan's going to be live around 2, 3 o'clock Eastern time. I'm going to try that tomorrow, see if we could keep this audience growing. I'm giving you that notification because I know YouTube's not going to notify you when I'm live. So I'm going to try to go live in the afternoon. And thank you for watching. Got to go to get my post up. And I really, really appreciate your support. Take care, guys.